Today, I am talking to one of the most exciting pound for pound mixed martial artists in the entire country. And for those of you who don't know who this man is, tune in on June 10th at LFA 134 when he takes on Jordan Harris, who is an undefeated fighter in his own right. And you guys will see firsthand why I think my next guest, Kevin Fernandez, is on to something special, and why I think one day you will see this man fight in the UFC, and one day you will see this man wear gold. Kevin, man, I'm so happy to see you, dude. It's been like 9 or 10 months since I last had you on, and here we are, dude.
Yeah, bro, it's been a while. It's like after my first pro fight, and now we're going on the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're that year anniversary.
So we had to absolutely get it in. I have to ask you one question. Well, actually, I have to tell you a statement, and we'll follow it up with a question. Did I ever tell you my dad's a brown guy? My dad's half Mexican. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, you told me.
I did. Okay. Yeah. So, did you know Justin Gaethje's half Mexican?
Yes, I've heard him talk about that.
Okay. Did you hear his walkout song?
No.
Okay, so he walked out to a mariachi song, and it was fucking fire. Would you ever walk out to a song like that?
Yeah, I would, but I feel like I got to learn more of them, honestly, because I'm not, like, I know a couple Spanish songs, but I don't really listen to Spanish music like that, but I don't want to be a phony, you know? If I'm going to walk out to it, I want it to be my song, you know?
So what separates, in your opinion, a bad walkout song to a good one, in your opinion? Like, there's some, regardless of what type of music you like, I feel that everyone plays all the time, and it's burned out, and it's stupid, and people just roll their eyes. In your mind, like, what's a good balance between something that's fresh, but not, like, you know, weird?
Well, I feel like there really is no bad or good walkout song, because I feel like, I mean, it's your song, you know what I mean? So whatever you like, I mean, you're going to go out there and fight, you get to pick whatever you want to walk out to, right?
I disagree. I think if your walkout song's Bodies by Drowning Pool, you should get your balls, like, caved in. Somebody should kick you in the nuts as hard as possible. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that.
I really don't like that song. I don't know why.
You seem like the perfect dude to be like in the music video for that song, jamming out.
It's because of the bald guy effect and the tattoos. And that's one thing about, like, extreme metal bands is, like, there has to be at least one bald guy with a lot of tattoos, and everyone else has, like, hair down to, like, their waist and shit. But there's that one guy that stands out, and that would be me, I guess, in this case.
I suppose so. Would you ever get a tattoo up there or anything?
Dude, I don't know. I think I'm too soft for something like that, man. I'd need to go out and commit some crimes first. From the Medina fight to now, you've been incredibly active. You have fought Jonathan Calderon, who, that was my favorite fight of yours. You also followed that up at LFA 123 when you fought Cody Lynn, who was another undefeated guy. These guys continually get more and more difficult, and I feel like you're starting to, like, build something special, and you have momentum behind you. And with this upcoming card, LFA 134, that happens on the 10th of June against Jordan Harris, you're on the main card now. And I know it's with a promotion you're familiar with. You've been there before, but I just feel like the venue and the fights keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. How do you not let that get to you and just kind of, like, think to yourself, like, you know what, man, this is just any other fight I've ever been in?
When you start focusing on all those kinds of things, can creep into your head and overwhelm you and whatnot. So I try not to focus on those kinds of things. I just try to think about the fight. And that's kind of the mentality that my coaches instilled in me as well, is to just not necessarily be confident, be sure of yourself, and to just be calm and not worry about nothing, have confidence in yourself. So that's all I ever try to do, is just worry about winning my fights first and foremost. I'm climbing that ladder, but I'm just looking at my opponent and trying to win.
Every single time I see you go out there, you seem very calm, cool, collected, and you're a young guy. Like, you fight as somebody who's, like, way older than what they really are. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, is that just, like, something that comes to you naturally, not getting rattled, not fighting like a young man that's out there with only single digit fights under his belt. Like you fight as somebody who's like 30 something odd years old, who's done this time and time again, and it doesn't bother you. So I have to ask, like, where does all that come from?
Sounds like I felt like an old man or some shit. Glover
Hey,
Teixeira out there.
hey, if I said that, even if I did say that, that's like a great compliment because he's one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah. I guess I've just learned over the years because at my gym we've done a lot of sparring and whatnot, and all my life I've been watching fighting and whatnot. So I've watched a lot of fights go the distance and whatnot, a lot of boxing matches, kickboxing matches. I've even like I watch all this kinds of stuff. So I've tried to learn from all these things, and I guess through experience and a lot of sparring sessions, I know like you got to pace yourself and whatnot, and think about the later rounds, these kind of things.
That is one of my favorite things about you. And if I had to list of all the things that I think that you're good at, the number one thing on my list would be intelligence, your fight intelligence. You are very measured, you're very patient. You don't go out there and go crazy trying to like knock a guy's head off with every single strike that you throw. You're not out there for you're not blowing your wad. Like I'm not going to worry about you adrenaline dumping in the cage or anything like that. Like everything that you do is very measured. It's calm. The few times I've seen you get in some sketchy situations, you never panic. Anytime Coach D asks for something, you're doing it, you're listening to what he's saying, you're executing on what he's asking you to do. I think that's what sets you apart, and that's what makes you such a good fighter. All those things I just mentioned, everything I just laid out. What kind of advice would you give to like a younger amateur fighter or somebody who's just getting started? Because all those things that I just mentioned, it's not just like a switch that you can flip on and just start automatically doing. Like these are learned skills.
So my advice to an amateur fighter or someone who's just started out, and I'll take this time to tell the new guys that I've been training, you got to shut up, guys, and just listen to your coach. And you got to tell yourself that you don't know anything and let yourself be a sponge, because that's the way you're going to get better, is learning and simply, like you said, listening to your coach, because your coach knows best. And if you know what I mean, like you got to be able to receive these things, and the only way you're going to do that is if you allow yourself to learn and try not to be hard-headed, because a lot of fighters, they think they know it, or they kind of get, I guess you might not trust in your coach or the system, but you just got to trust the process and keep going with it.
It's also one of those things where we watching at home on our TV and then your coach who's standing ringside, like there's not another 125 or I guess 135-pound man on top of us. Like we don't see everything that you see. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but that's why it's just something to think about. Like when he asks for an underhook or when he's asking for you to make a transition or to bail out of a submission attempt, something like that. It's because we see things from different angles that you aren't going to see because you have another fighter on top of you. It's easier said than done, though, to take all that in and then to execute on what they're asking for when somebody's trying to like bash your face in and kill you.
Of course, but that's why as a fighter, you simply got to trust. You got to believe in your coach and trust the process. You just got to listen if you want to win. You know what I mean?
Kevin, I've talked to Landon. I've talked to Quan. I am going to be talking to more fighters in your gym. I am going to talk to Andrew, but he got hacked, and like whoever the hacker was started like asking me for money, and I said a bunch of mad, like unsavory things. Man. I did. So Andrew, if you're watching this. And you got access back to that account, like that was just me talking shit to the spammer, not you, homie. So I have to throw that out there because I saw a clip of that stripling guy, man, and holy shit, like you weren't lying, man. Like, can you talk a little bit about him because that guy's scary, and I'm intrigued. You got my interest, you got my attention now. Who is this guy? What makes him a special fighter?
Yeah, Drew, he's only been training for a little bit over a year. He no boxing, no wrestling background, nothing. He's only been training for a little bit over a year with us. now he's 2-0 as an amateur mixed martial artist, and he's got like 15 little exhibition boxing matches that my coach is throwing the Tuesday night fights. And yeah, Drew's just dominating those. He's 2-0 as an amateur MMA fighter. He's just like, he's a freak of nature pretty much. He's a fast learner, and he's got a real good mindset. Like what I was telling you about listening, just being able to shut up and like you got to be able to accept the fact that you don't really know how to do these things, and accept the knowledge that people are giving to you. And that's one thing that Drew's really good at, and he just keeps going over and over again. He trains hard. So, but yeah, no, he's got a new Instagram. It's King Strib. But yeah, Drew, you need to get your shit together so we can get you on the show, bro.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I liked what I saw, and he definitely seems like somebody just like you, who's somebody that we should like remember moving forward, because it's really fun to see you guys grow. And I'm sure him and the rest of your teammates are all going to be moving on to bigger and better things. And I wanted to kind of, since we're talking about amateur fighters, you are a type of guy in your gym that people respect a lot. From talking to Landon, talking to Taquan, I asked them about you, and they all say the same thing. Like, dude, he's one of the most like gifted, amazing fighters I've ever seen. Like, you're very highly respected. People appreciate your whole body of work from your entire amateur career to now. And for you to, at such a young age, to command the amount of respect that you do, people respect you as a person, they respect you as a fighter. When you think about you, and I know you coach people too, like when you're on the opposite end of it and you're coaching people, or when you're in a corner for an amateur fighter, what makes a good coach in your mind? Because this seems like something that is going to be in your future at one point as well. And I wanted to know, what are certain things as a coach you have to do that you can't do as a fighter, and vice versa? Because they're similar skills, but they're very, very different. And I'm just wondering what your perspective is when you have the opportunity to corner some of your teammates, as opposed to being the guy in the actual octagon and fighting.
I guess in terms of dealing with the fighter, I have to deal with them a little bit differently than I would whenever I'm being their teammate or whatever. Because when I'm being their teammate, I can tell them straight up and whatnot, and I'm like one of them. But being teaching the class and whatnot, I feel like I gotta treat them a little nicer or whatever. Like James Vick used to say, like James Vick used to be like, "Oh, you guys are acting like a bunch of pussies," but he'd be like, "Oh, well, hold on, guys. I'm not trying to, in case I got any little sissies out there and whatnot. I don't know. I'm still trying to get the balance of it. Honestly, I feel like I got a long way to go right now. I'm comfortable with just being a fighter because it's coach and shit. I don't know how Coach D's been doing it, man.
I could only imagine like how stressful it is, because you're asking for things, you have no control over the outcome, and it's an opportunity for you to be like me, where it's like, no, you're sitting on the couch, man. You have like no ability to go in there and like do something different. Like you're a passenger on this ride, and that's got to be kind of weird to get used to.
Yeah, but I feel like what makes those things better is if like I'm a passenger with you, and I can't make you do these things inside the octagon, but what I can ensure is that we put in the correct amount of work during training. Therefore, that will be able to translate into the ring. That's why the whole thing has to start with training and in the camp to be able to, make that happen in the cage. We got to put in this work together as a team in order for you to listen to my instructions whenever I'm in your corner and whatnot.
Kevin, you have officially, I'm going to bring up a bad subject. You've lost one bout, and it was in 2017. It was by a split decision that didn't go your way. It was a long time ago, but anytime you lose for the first time, that's something that nobody will ever forget. And a couple of your teammates recently have competed and things haven't gone their way. And when you're trying to like motivate them or relate to them, knowing like what it feels like to like drop a fight, like what is some advice that you could give to somebody who's also dropped a fight at an AMI level? Because that's tough to do. You're still trying to like figure out who you are and if this sport really is for you. And when you lose a fight kind of relatively early on in your career, that could do a lot to like hurt your confidence. You've experienced that before. How can you leverage that experience to help your teammates for the better?
I mean, I could tell them, just like you said, to look at me and the fact that I've lost, and then that I continued to fight. Just keep training, keep fighting. There's more fights. You live to fight another day, and to not be discouraged by that. Like, I try to tell them, I lost my second amateur fight, and then I haven't lost a fight since I think it's like 8 fights, include all my amateur Muay Thai, amateur MMA, and my pro fights now. I think it's like an 8-fight winning streak, if you want to consider that, since my last and only loss as an amateur. So basically, don't be discouraged, and you just got to keep training. So that's why I just try to tell these guys, but it's up to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to zero in on, you've just started. Like, you're just starting your professional career, and people are seeing firsthand how special you are and how good you are. I actually DM'd Anthony Smith before your fight, and I was like, dude, pay attention to this guy, watch this kid, because he's something special. He read it. I just saw where it said red. He didn't say anything back, but he saw what I said. And I told him in advance, I was like, I'm telling you, this kid is special. And when you think about, like, from where you come from, just a kid in Dallas, Fort Worth, fighting on the local scene, and they're flying you out to all these places all over the country to fight these guys that you've never even heard of. You're experiencing things that 99% of people from your neighborhood never get to experience. How do you stay humble? How do you continue to better your craft and kind of like not let that kind of shit get to you? Because I'm not gonna lie, when I was 21, 22 years old, if I were experiencing those things, dude, I would think I'm Conor McGregor. I'd have like a stupid fucking fur jacket I'd wear everywhere. I'd wear glasses inside. I'd probably be the biggest douchebag in the world. You're like nothing like that. Like, you're very humble. You're a normal, like, approachable guy. And I just kind of wanted to pause there, because you're experiencing all these things that most of us never experience. How are you able to stay so humble and continue to maintain the great relationship you have with Coach D? Because some guys drink their own Kool-Aid a little too much. They think they're good. They think they're hot shit, and they don't. All of a sudden, they don't want to start listening to people anymore.
Well, it's easy for me to stay humble. I guess just the way that I am, the way I was raised, and the type of home that I grew up in and whatnot. So it's a pretty humble beginning, and I come right back to that. I'll fly out to Miami, fly out to Indiana, and we'll have a little bit of fun. But when I come right back, I'm still in the hood. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's easy to be humble. Life will humble you and whatnot. So I just try to, besides I got a good, I have good teachers, good coach, good family. So I've had some good lessons, and I know better than to get big headed and whatnot. But hey, I could fail at any moment, I'm still going. So it's constant battle of trying to keep yourself humble. And
for people who don't know, I know you know this story, Kevin, but I don't think like most of the people know. It was a year ago almost, right, that you made your professional debut. I watched that fight live on Fight Pass. I had no idea who you were. I was literally in my mom's basement at that time in Colorado. I'm watching your fight live. I had no idea who you were. I'm sitting there, dude. I'm drinking like Crown and Coke or Jack and Coke, just watching the fights, right? And you fight Manuel Medina, and I'm looking. I just started this page up, and I'm looking at the TV, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, this kid's fucking amazing. Like, I'd never heard of you. I'd never seen you. And the only way I knew it was you when I found you on Instagram, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is him. I'm like looking at their TV, looking at my phone, doing one of those like old people things. Like, is this fucking him? And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's him. I'm going to hit this dude up. You make everything look so goddamn easy. I know the level of guys that you're fighting, they're absolute tanks. They're absolute savages. You make everything look so easy. And from when you think about that first pro fight to concluding your most recent bout. Can you talk a little bit about the version of you today versus the version of you last summer? We're talking about 12 months. How has your game evolved? And how much more confident are you as just a mixed martial artist in general in the past 12 or 13 months?
I definitely learned a lot from my first fight and that second fight, with all those submission attempts. I learned a lot about myself and whatnot, even though I've already experienced those things in training camp and whatnot. But to be able to do that against these other gyms and these people from other parts of the world, like to me, I've only been I'm from my gym, and I've fought some guys from Texas, but then to go out to these other states and my first time ever flying and whatnot, and to fight these other guys from big places like California and Miami, Florida, um, I feel like I take those experiences and it helps me be calm in my future fights and whatnot, and I know that I can go that much more. So I try to keep progressing. I feel like my wrestling has got a lot better. My striking, just overall, just learning how to be more patient and to be calm in these situations.
My favorite fight of yours was XMMA 3. That was in Miami. It was in October, just this past October. I am not going to lie. I think I had a heart attack probably 3 or 4 different times during that fight. You are fighting against an absolute tank. I DM'd you before this fight happened, and you and I were talking, and you told me specifically, you're like, yeah, dude, this guy's real good. I know what I'm getting into. He's a beast, but that's kind of why I want to fight him. I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what you told me. I'm watching this fight, and I don't know how you're able to get out of the things that you that he's imposing on you. He had some really nasty chokes locked in, and you figured out a way to persevere, break out of it, and put him in an arm triangle to win the fight in the third round. I wanted to ask, like, a lot of your bouts, they end relatively quickly. So anytime you actually go back to the stool and are able to get instructions from Coach D, that's a little bit of a rarity. So I have to ask, when you were going into round 3, were you confident that you had done enough to take the first 2 rounds, or were you thinking like, it's maybe one apiece? I thought you had the first 2, but I'm curious what your thoughts were and what Coach D told you before you entered into the third round against Calderon.
Yeah, me and Coach D were actually confident that we won the first round, and we were confident with the second round. And he was basically just telling me, keep doing what you're doing. You won. He's like, how do you feel? He's a good coach. He's good in the corner too at keeping you calm, and he kind of goes with the energy that he's seeing coming off of you. So he I guess he could see I was calm and I was confident because I felt like I won those rounds, ended up on top and escaping the submissions. So Coach D was just like, stay calm, and yeah, we got 2 in the bank. He's like, keep doing what you're doing, stay on top and whatnot.
Did you barfed? This was the fight that you barfed in, right?
Yeah, dude, I did.
Okay, so for people who don't know, can you explain that story? What happened? How did you lose your lunch like during the fight?
All right, so we were in Miami, and we didn't have our own car or whatever, and I don't know, Ubers are like expensive, and you gotta. I'm still getting used to this, having to travel from the hotel and where the heck I'm supposed to get food from. We got to fuel up after the weigh-ins, and I guess after weigh-ins the night before the fight, I wasn't able to fuel up as much as I would have liked. So then the next day, the day of the fight, I was trying to eat like 2 meals in before the fight, and I guess they were kind of too close together or something like that. I don't remember if he was guillotining me or I just escaped it. I think I just escaped an armbar, and I must have like mustered up a lot of energy to do that. And out of nowhere, I just felt it, and I just had to pull the mouthpiece out real quick, and I just had to.
If you watch the fight, there's like, you can see it, and I didn't really know what was going on at the time, but it was just crazy, like the amount of adversity you had to overcome. You puked during the fight. He put on some like nasty chokes on you, and it would have been easy to tap out, and no one would have blamed you for tapping out. But you found a way to win. Like things were a little sketchy. It was a little hairy, but not only did you find a way to win, but you found a way to finish that, man. I have all the respect in the world to Jonathan Calderon. I think he's a dangerous guy, a great fighter. But can you talk a little bit? Is it safe to say that that's probably the most satisfying win of your professional career to date?
Yeah, yeah. That's my only finish as a pro. So yeah, and he was a like a brown belt at the time, and I mean I've never put on a belt in gi, so I'm a white belt. So that was really good for me.
And you know what? That's what makes the story even great. Stick to nogi, be a white belt, and keep tapping all these guys out because none of that crap makes a difference. Not in the world of the UFC, not in the world of Bellator. No one gives a shit what color belt you are. People care about wins. You were able to choke out a guy who is an advanced jiu-jitsu guy. When you go into the next fight against Cody Lynn, this is an interesting fight because I felt like you 10-8'd him every single round. It was complete domination, one-way traffic, the entire 15 minutes. When you think about the Cody Lynn fight versus the Jonathan Calderon fight, I can understand like there are a lot of things that you can learn from the Calderon fight, but when you fight against Cody Lynn, this fight in particular, a tough guy, 2-0, you completely dominate. You win every round, in my opinion. You 10-8 him every single round. What are you able to learn from some of these bouts against these guys that you're able to dominate? Like, what's the learning lesson, and how do you stay humble for the next one?
I mean, like how you said, I'm having a lot of success against these guys, so that gives me confidence and whatnot. It lets me know that how good I am and where I'm at against these other dudes. But at the same time, it lets me know that I gotta keep elevating and train harder so I can finish these fights. Like Cody Lane, I wanted to finish that guy, so I know I got to train harder to put on better performances and whatnot. And the fight with Jonathan Calderon, I can do better than that as well. You know, I shouldn't be getting caught in all these different types of submissions, and the next time I might not get out of it. So we learn from all these fights and whatnot.
Talk to me about Jordan Harris. This is a guy that on paper, it's an interesting story when you look at him. He's a bigger flyweight, 5'7". You don't typically see guys at that size for flyweights. They're usually 5'6", 5'5", or shorter. When you look at everything that he's accomplished so far in his career, he's an undefeated fighter, not the most active guy, though. How difficult is it to prepare for a guy that maybe doesn't have a lot of tape? But at your level, it's a little bit different. And that's like a regular part of the preparation. His last fight was in 2019. Does that change anything strategy-wise when you go into the fight against him?
I mean, I guess it could, but for me, I don't know if that was his. I think that was his last MMA fight. I don't know if he's fought anymore in kickboxing or how active he's been. But no, I don't really look at those things like if how inactive he's been or whatnot. And I kind of just try to prepare for every guy. Like I know his type of style. I'll try to prepare around that. I've seen a little bit about him, and I try to prepare for that kind of stuff. But overall, I'm just trying to train for everything, you know, and I always think that I'm fighting like the best guy in the world and just try to train to beat that guy. So
this is a bout that is happening in Texas. This is the first bout of your professional career that's in Texas, that people in your neighborhood, your family, your friends, they could drive to Belton, Texas. It's probably an hour or two away, not that far from where you live. There's going to be a lot of people that are, I would imagine, are going to show up because they want to see you compete. Do you feel like there's more pressure on this one because you're going to be on home turf? You're going to be fighting in front of your people, and you're going to be fighting fairly deep into the card. I think the only fights after you, at least according to Tapology today, the co-main event's the one that's right after you. So like you're real deep in the card, man. So like when you think about all that stuff, is that even like more motivating for you because you're fighting in front of your people? I know you want to like put on a good show for them.
Yeah, it's more motivating right now, leading up to the fight during training camp. That's the kind of stuff that motivates me. And before the fight, it's not pressure or anything like that. I'm not really thinking about those kinds of things like needing to put on a show. Besides,
Kevin, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I have to tell you, with a win over a guy like Harris, it's only going to be a short amount of time before we see you start headlining some of these LFA cards. I know you're not a guy that talks a lot of shit, but at the same time, Charles Johnson, he's gone. He left for the UFC. That belt's relinquished. Is that something that's kind of like on your radar and something that you're thinking about? Like, what do I have to do to compete for the LFA 125 title?
yeah, for sure. That belt has been on my radar for a while now. So and I know that he's just got signed to the UFC. Congratulations to him. And yeah, I was thinking about that too a while back, that the belt is vacant. So I know I just got to keep training, keep fighting, try to stay active. As long as I can keep getting these fights, and as long as I'm healthy and I can win these fights, I just got to keep progressing. But title shot, UFC, whatever the next big thing, I'm just trying to keep going for what's next.
Well, the 125 division, they are adding more and more talented guys to it. But with that being said, I still feel that there's a lot of opportunity for the young blood to get into the UFC and start making waves. Um, I have no doubt in my mind, this is me speaking, that I think maybe 2022, the rest of this calendar year, would be good for LFA just for like the experience. But I don't expect to see you in this at this level for much longer. I truly only think it's going to be a matter of time before you also follow the path of Charles Johnson, get a shot in the UFC. And I can't wait for that. That's going to be something special. Kevin, before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity. I know that there's a lot of people that you'd like to shout out. So I want to go ahead and give you the chance to do that before we sign off.
Oh, well, first, I'll shout out Mom's Basement. You know, you're the first person to have me on their show, and it was right after that pro debut. It's been a year. You said it right. I feel like your following has gone up, so I kind of consider myself like a Mount Rushmore on the Mom's Basement.
You are.
And I want to give a shout out to Chicano Sports and Lamb 4, all my friends and family, my girlfriend, Coach D, everybody that's been helping me, and LFA. Thank you, guys.
All right, great. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Fernandez, make sure you're tuning into the fight. It will be airing on UFC Fight Pass June 10th. I will be updating everybody as that date comes closer. Make sure you follow my guy here, and then make sure you're also following me. I will go ahead. I will release any and all information pertaining to that card. And I'm also going to throw this out there because by the time this is edited, I think I'll have already talked about it on Instagram. If you want to support Kevin, you can do that right now. Go into the link that's in the description of this video and pick up some drip. If there's a t-shirt you want, a hoodie, a rash guard, whatever the case may be, look at that beautiful shirt that Kevin's wearing right there. If you want one of those, go ahead and get one. I'm mentioning this because 100% of every dollar that I would get, I'm going to give to Kevin to make sure that he's taken care of and he has everything that he needs for the 10th. We got to take care of these guys. This is an easy way in order for you to do that. Literally, the only thing you have to do, click on the link, buy something. Kevin gets the money. That's it. And look, how can you say no to that face? Kevin, always a pleasure, my man. You are on to great things. I can't wait to talk to you again in the near future.